Hello and welcome everyone to the Riot Games Four Nations online qualifiers. I am Oisin Bloodpenguin Molloy, and joining me today for an extra special broadcast is Ceirnan Excoundrel Lowe. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey buddy, everything great over on this end. I've got my brother from another country over here in the form of Bloodpenguin, and we're going to get on with this tournament now. Why don't you go ahead and tell us, Bloodpenguin, what are we going to be seeing in a spectacle of a tournament here tonight?
Spectacle tournament indeed. The last two positions in the Four Nations for the last 8 are up for grabs. The 4 teams going for them are in the first best of 3 series, you Whatmate versus Electi Gaming. And that's going to be the first best of 3 we have on tonight. And the second one is going to be Unite Gaming versus Northumberland, I think it is. And 9 o'clock kickoff, roughly around there. So we hopefully get all these down there. So new patch. 420's brought a lot of changes onto these. How do you think these teams are going to really adapt to these kind of things?
Well, we've seen you Whatmate across multiple tournaments this autumn and winter. They're really good at adapting. They've got a really wonderfully diverse mid lane player in the form of Brixton. Probably not as diverse as Shawsey on the other side, but Brixton obviously plays these meta champions to perfection. And you know, his Syndra is renowned across the UK as being one of the best. He's probably the best player and the main carry on the Whatmate side, but they do have a new jungler coming into the lineup. Obviously, their old jungler Maxlaw has moved out and I believe is now playing for Rift. And I think the old Rift jungler, which is Proper Panda, is now come through and is playing for Whatmate. So it was a complete roster switcheroo. Very old school. And Proper Panda coming in. Obviously, there's 2 different styles of junglers here. Maxwell was this big Rengar player. That was his best champion by far. He'd make sure he put the early pressure down in the bot lane and then wait until 6 and mainly make plays off that. Proper Panda is a Lee Sin player through and through, early pressure down. I have not seen Proper Panda player play on this new patch. Lee Sin is still as potent as he used to be, Bloodpenguin. He is so much more aggressive though. You've got to take advantage of the fact that you can invade and potentially get kills on those weaker junglers that will be going lower to the new buffed up and powerful jungle. But we're into picks and bans. Let's get on the road.
Yeah, first ban now. It's going to be Blitzcrank for you, Whatmate. And in fairness, both teams now, I suppose we're kind of used to seeing very quick bans, very decisive. But with this new patch, no one really knows if you should be target banning or generic banning, or it's a little bit harder for them to kind of realize. Lee Sin, as you just got out, taking out as well for Electi. So they're deciding to go with kind of a couple more kind of generic bans, and then a Collie as well. So very.
This is target bans right at Electi, straight into Electi's heart. Blitzcrank is something that Shawsey's been playing recently. Now Shawsey is this mid laner who's known for some really ridiculous stuff. He played AD Blitzcrank mid loads. They played Teemo top consistently with Chi Killer. Akali is a champion that both of those guys can play particularly well, and the Ezreal ban is straight at Shawsey. This is not an AD Ezreal we're talking about. We're talking about full AP Ezreal, and Shawsey is an absolute monster with it.
Yeah, Ezreal taken out. Lucy and Syndra also taken out by Electi, so pretty standard ban, but they did leave up Warwick. Now, Warwick has been a beast on this current patch.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute monster. His kit just works so well with absolutely everything that's new about the jungle. His sustain in the jungle means he's able to farm up an awful lot quicker than most junglers. He's definitely the one to look for. I'd imagine, though, Nocturne might be seeing a little bit more play because he's also kind of come back to the spotlight a little bit, but Warwick probably the strongest jungler right now.
Warwick, definitely one of the strongest junglers. Now, in the new jungle, there's one key thing that makes junglers strong against counter invades and strong with their clear. It's the sustain. You need the sustain to survive in this new jungle, and who is the king of sustain? It's that wolf over there. It's the Warwick. He is the best sustained jungler in the game right now, and added to the fact that he can now have additional items to help his clear, point in case the Ranger's Trailblazer, he is so much more powerful. He can get that level 6 far more quickly with that AoE smite. But that's not only it. You could even go for the Stalker's Blade, which allow you to smite and do true damage on hit. Combine that with the Devourer enchantment and Blade of the Ruined King, you've got a Warwick ultimate that does 6 auto attacks that will burn you.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Electi going with the Corki Janna bot lane combo. Exceptionally powerful, very high burst, and get that shield, AD shield onto Corki in time. Just a pretty safe lane as well. Good kite potential there. I don't know if it's a huge strong lane. Bot lane's actually been in this current patch been kind of neglected almost. I'd say it's just been kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. It's kind of the same as it was in 4.19.
Yeah, I mean, The thing about ADs is that you're never going to get that much diversity with the AD builds, because unlike the junglers, there's a lot of people who complained about this. And unlike the junglers, if you're playing AD carry, you're only going to be building AD. Unlike junglers who can have a diverse set of builds, you have AP guys, you have tanks, you have full AD junglers. So you need that diversity when you come to sort of editing the jungle. Obviously, the AD carries are never going to have that much of a difference with their build path. I think the most that they've got to choose between is whether they're going to go Trinity Force, Static Shiv, Phantom Dancer, as their main attack speed item or whatever. So obviously, Corki is always going to be a Triforce guy. That is the way he goes. He will probably never change. There was a point where you could go Bloodthirster first, but obviously now that Bloodthirst has all received all these changes a long time ago, Triforce is the only way for Corki. But it is a strong laner. He can beat out potentially the best AD carry of this patch, and I'll go into reasons why I think he is in a minute, but he can beat out Graves fairly easily in lane. So that takes Graves off the cards if you wanted to pick that up, because Graves at the moment, and this is just a little bit of theory crafting here for you, Bloodpenguin. I'm going to spitball. Graves recently has seen a massive surge in play, and the real reason probably I think behind it is all the base stats buffs, but Graves' passive has remained the same. So he can build up armor and magic resist with his passive, and it will be far more effective than it was previously because of all the base buff stats.
Again, it's something that you say that they haven't picked it up just yet, but we are just going to go quickly into picks as well. Aurelia picked up for keys in that top lane, Sona as well. It's going to be a Jarvan and a Gnar, two exceptionally strong picks as well, picked up for Electi. And looks like you what mate are hovering over that Orianna, a pretty standard mid laner who's never really going to fall out of meta. They are going to lock that in, and so it's just waiting, as you say, to see if they go with that Graves, who has been picked up quite a lot of play recently, or maybe they go with something else like a Sivir. I haven't seen it now. Very, very interesting pick. I don't know if it really is the right one for unless they're going for a high mobility with the two hard engages of Crescendo and Shockwave.
I mean, Sivir's still this pocket pick for AD carries. It does make sense against a high burst lane where you'd probably want to be using that on the Phosphorus Bomb. You have that time to think about activating your spell shield to get the mana back. Very interesting pick though, because obviously Sivir has seen a massive fall in play. The reason Sivir was so popular was because she could clear that first wave with her Ricochet instantly almost. Just by using that one Ricochet, she could get the massive... Obviously that's been nerfed now. You can still get a good push on, but it's not as effective as it was previously. But now she's become this pick that's a little bit more pocket. But think about it this way, Bloodpenguin. You've got Sivir's ultimate and Warwick. And yes. Warwick is so strong. And just think about this for a second. Considering that Warwick is likely going to be the most part your engage here, you've got the Flash Sonar ultimate, but it's really going to be this point-and-click Warwick death stun. You're going to have that, and combined with the fact that this is interesting for me. I probably don't think this is a viable build, but I actually build Righteous Glory on Warwick, and you have this ridiculous engage for your team. There's a lot of stuff on the side of Electi here that is actually quite good for zoning and countering that kind of thing. You've got, obviously, Shawzy on that Anivia in the mid lane, and I will talk about that in a second. That's a big pick.
Bird is the word. Bird is exactly the word for Electi. But again, yeah, you're saying that the Warwick pick, they've got like a kind of, Flash Crescendo and the Warwick pick. They really do have quite a lot of not single target, but a kind of like, just jump on you and just make a fight out of completely nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. But you've got to remember, look at how much disengage and knockups and stuns that there are on the side of Electi. You're not going to... If Warwick's going to go for it, he's going to get a slight engage over the Electi side before he's locked down with either a Gnar stun, Gnar ultimate, a flag and drag, a Nivea stun, a Monsoon, or a Howling Gale. I mean, there's a myriad of things that Electi can do to negate the Warwick ultimate there. So there's a lot more that you are going to have to do to secure this win than just relying on the fact that Warwick is absolutely ridiculous right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree with you there. As we do look through the teams, you what mate going with Aurelia in that top lane, Proper Panda bringing Warwick as his very, very big pick into the jungle, Orianna in that mid lane, and the duo lane of Sivir and Sona. I want to touch on Sona a little bit. She seems to be kind of like I wouldn't say the counter, but she seems to be very, very popular pick into people who, when they're against a Janna. Is it just because of the sustain? Is it because of the poke? Why are the main reasons for that?
Well, okay, the reason Sona sort of fell out of competitive play is because we went through this period of really hard engaged supports, and Sona's got one of the lowest base healths in the game, and also she sucks versus hard engaged supports, really. If they start to focus her, she's actually quite easily burst down. She doesn't have any natural escapes past her flash. And obviously, if she's continuously being engaged upon, it's quite easy to burst her down. Now that you're seeing more passive supports coming back through, like the Janna, she's becoming more and more viable because it's actually easier to lane with a Sona. You can effectively go up and try and get your power chords off in lane without really too much fear of any repercussions, I guess, especially against the Janna. Janna's going to do a good job of shielding your power chords, obviously, but you're going to have a quicker cooldown on your poke. So you're going to be making sure you're consistently getting that off. And you won't really face too many repercussions when you're trying to do that. So now that we're starting to see the Threshers, I mean, we do still see Thresh, and you probably wouldn't go and pick Sona into a Thresh unless you're really confident about dodging hooks. We know, but Leona obviously has been dropped out. You don't really see Leona that often anymore. Sona's just sort of working her way back into the meta, and obviously I've seen it a lot doing a lot of the other tournaments across the autumn and winter. The Sona Flash Crescendo coming out again is just, I've just been seeing that left, right, and center. People are for some reason really loving that at the moment, and also there's a load of new items that Sona loves to pick up. I mean, you can even go for that Locket of the Iron Solari fairly easily as a first item on Sona and not have to worry too much about it because you've actually got the sustain and you've got a lot of self-peel for your AD carry. You might not actually need that immediate Crucible. But I think against this team, you'll probably likely be seeing a Crucible coming out for Sona.
Yeah, most likely. And just kind of looking at the side of Electi, they've gone with kind of more of a poke, a semi-poke comp with a lot of kite, and obviously they have the Gnar and the Jarvan for the hard engage. But I feel like it kind of gets a little bit negated with the sustain that you have with Sona. She'd be able to heal up, she'd have the shield up as well if people were within that aura. Is that going to negate their comp a little bit, or which comp really has the strongest kind of kind of mid to late game or anything like that, or even turret sieging possibilities?
I mean, total synergy in a team fight, you have to give it to Electi because they've just got so much that runs together. I mean, you've got the Jarvan ultimate into the Anivia ultimate. I mean, that's just everyone knows it's basically the icy pool of death inside the Cataclysm. And then you've got Gnar, who can then get on top and use his ultimate effectively as well. And you've got a lot of backline presence in the sense of Corki can stay and use his rockets from distance. So in terms of total team fight synergy, if they can land that sort of massive wombo combo, even if they can just land half of their wombo combo, it's a great big mess of a team fight for Electi. I mean, they can do whatever they want with that.
Yeah,
but you're going up against a team that's got so much single target lockdown. You've got the Irelia really good at chasing down single targets. You've got the Warwick, obviously we've talked about it, you don't need to say, he's got the point and click suppression. And then you've got Brixton on this Orianna that just adds the ever so slight flavor of a AoE centric team fight. You can do multiple things with this Warwick. You can use the Warwick as a way to position your ball to get the shockwave off in the correct area, or you can simply use it in conjunction with Irelia to burst a squishy target. And then you've got obviously the Sivir and the Sona, who also provide a lot of teamfight control in themselves. You've got that Boomerang Blade and also the Crescendo, which allow a little bit of zoning, and you're always going to be afraid of the damage coming out, especially in the mid-game teamfights. So I think that both of these team fights shape up moderately well. It's just going to be whether they can lock down proper Panda in these team fights and not allow him to effectively use his ultimate. Because if he's using his ultimate and getting instantly stunned, then obviously they're losing a big portion of what they've picked for here. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But I don't expect proper Panda to struggle early on in the jungle unless Sam Hodge is really looking to put a lot of pressure down. But I've never seen Sam Hodge be overly aggressive in the jungle, so I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it either. As we do now get onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, this is game one of the best of three. The winner of this series is going through to the Four Nations round of 8. And we'll see how everyone gets on. New turret changes, new jungle changes, so many different things. It's literally a game of who adapts faster.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these guys have had a little bit of time to play on this patch now, so we wouldn't be too worried. But it does look like Sam Hodge going fairly aggressive. This is an interesting movement here from Electi. There is a ward down there, and that's a very good ward that's going to spot out any potential invades that come before that ward drops off, unless they choose to go for a ridiculously late invade here, Bloodpenguin.
Yeah, unless they go for a really, really late one. But I'd imagine with Gnar down there, I think they're just going to wait for Corki to pop down to see if they can get something out of this. Electi really, really trying to get something else. Everyone else, though, pretty much standard, you know, defend the buffs, defend the things, but honestly, it looks like you what mate know this is coming, and they get caught out. They know that this is 100%, you know, warded. They didn't get anything from it except for probably wasted time.
Yeah, I mean, it was always worth a shot, but actually they may have sown a little bit of seeds of doubt in the side of Warwick now. He knows that they're trying to play aggressively. He's actually not even going to start on his red side. He's going to go straight for that Gromp start. So obviously there's so many weird things you can do in the jungle now, Bloodpenguin, but most people tend to start their side camps again. Now this is throwback, because they're going to start these side camps for specific reasons. You smite the side camps and you get specific buffs from them. The Gromp is the best one to start if you're a high sustain, or you know, you have a good jungle clear, etc., or you're a bit more tanky like Sam Hodge, because it gives you this basically early Thornmail passive against neutral minions and monsters. It allows them to, when they attack you, are poisoned and they receive a bit of damage. So it actually really aids Warwick's early clear.
You see now, straight away they're going to go straight for those, same for Jarbin, so pretty much mirror starts for both junglers. Realistically, what's mate's kind of strategy? They haven't got the greatest of siege potential, but as you say, the single target damage coming out from all their, you know, lockdowns, everything like that is immense.
Yeah, and actually, obviously, the Corki and Janna had a little bit of time here to do work, and actually, I think Jokerism and Wizio did take those Krugs off the map, so that's going to allow them to get an early level 2 if they get a couple more minions behind them, because if you give all of the experience of one of these camps to a singular target, they get level 2 instantly. But actually, Wizzy and Jokerism have shared it, and there you can see they haven't even got the minion advantage, but have just managed to hit that level 2 straight away. So they have that little bit of advantage there. Does mean they lose a little bit of lane presence though, Bloodpenguin, as Hayden and Mexi are looking to get aggressive with that phosphorus bomb.
Yeah, they lose a little bit of lane pressure, but once they hit that level 2, that sustain comes back in, and as you can see, Sona still with a full mana bar. Probably Jokerism the only thing that's kind of worrying at the moment, and honestly, I think they might have come out on top of this. Very, very interesting start to the game. Very, very, you know, it's always very interesting for me to see all these different things happening. As we do see Chi Killer going a little bit ham in the top lane, nothing too crazy. Everyone's starting to go ham now in the bot lane, trying to see if they get some more damage. Actually, Ignite goes down to Jokerism. They may be in a little bit of trouble. Prosperous Bomb not up just yet. Ignite was used, but with the sustain now still on Wizyu, it's not really going to hurt them that much.
Yeah, there was no spell shield for Jokerism at this point. He was only level 2. Going to have to wait for Wizyu to heal him up with that area of Perseverance. They're just going to make sure they get a little bit more health behind them before they decide to go again. But this is actually not too bad for the bot lane of Sona and Sivir, because they have that sustain and the ability to block spells if needs be. Obviously, there is no passive sustain for Electi on their side of things. So this is where Electi need to make the decision whether they try and go all in and get as much damage down now so it makes them harder to sustain up, or they just wait it out. And if they wait it out, obviously Wizzy and Jokerism, they're going to have an okay time.
Yeah, they're going to have a pretty much time, and actually, as you can see now, they're actually nearly sustained up pretty damn nicely. Obviously, Janna being able to use the, or Mexi I should say, being able to use his pots or Biscuits of Rejuvenation to keep him pretty well sustained, but neither AD carry has pots left, and they've both pretty much actually, it's Sivir coming out on Jokerism coming out on top of the CS. So right now, this is actually going in favor of you, mate, and it seems like that very unorthodox, you know, start has actually paid off for them a little bit.
Yeah, and obviously you mate are going to be slightly shaken with the fact that they haven't had competitive experience with Proper Panda on a bigger stage at this point. He's obviously a new thing because they had that jungle switch out where Max Law switched for Proper essentially in a like-for-like trade. So this is going to be probably some of the first on-stream or competitive games we're seeing mate bring out with their new jungler. And with a Warwick, you're not going to be expecting those early ganks and early pressure that you'd probably be used to playing with Proper Panda. He's going to have to change his style essentially from what he's used to doing, and he's doing it quite well. He's really just going for this early clear and rushing that level 6, and you can see he's doing quite well at it so far.
Yeah, he hasn't gone back yet. He still has a pot with his Hunter's Machete, so he's going to have quite a bit of gold going back into that jungle. He's actually accumulated up about 1,000. Actually, you see Chi Killer getting a little bit too much damage there from Aurelia. Needs to be very, very careful if he gets caught under that tower again. It could be the death of him, but pretty passive start. Honestly, though, I think that the stakes are exceptionally stacked in this game, and you can see it that they're not. No one can really say they're entirely comfortable on this patch, as it is only a few weeks old, and even then, there's just so much on the line. You know, a chance to go into the top 8 teams between Ireland and the UK is huge, and this is the last chance saloon.